sometimes you make a decision and it's not the right decision. Sometimes mistakes are made. When you think about kind of a fuck up or two that happened in the process, are there any that stand out to you?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, look, you got to make mistakes. I will say, the biggest blow up was the press cycle the summer before last around what was called externally Panavision, which actually meant something different internally. And it was a confluence of a bunch of different changes that were happening at once. So it ended up being one of those words that people just projected onto it whatever they didn't like, and so it kind of took on a life of its own. So we were introducing recommendations into feeds, so content that is not from accounts you follow, very controversial. We were leaning into video. And our heritage is photos, also controversial. Creators were frustrated with their reach, and I think some of that was for good reason, and some of it's because people always want more reach. And we were also experimenting with a pretty radically new design for the main tab. It just all was a little bit too much too fast, and it all kind of blew up in our face. And then there was an interaction between the creator community and the media, and it kind of ping-ponged. And then I did a video explaining what we were doing, and then I became a meme for a week, which was fun. I think The Daily Show did a pretty funny, actually, with biting impression of me.
Was it funny at the time? Were you like, oh no?
So I was trying to calibrate, because on one hand, like I do think that if you're not making mistakes, you're not trying big enough things. So if I had no big painful moments in the last couple of years, that would mean that we were being too conservative. So I'm glad, even though it was not fun. On the specific, like all the memes of like a banana, I was wearing a yellow sweater in the video, so there were like a lot of banana, a lot of mini me memes, like a lot of stuff. So I was like sending stuff to some friends, being like, is this mean or is this funny? Because it's hard for me to tell. And like my brother's like, this is just funny. But the best is I sent a bunch to my wife, and she didn't respond to any of it. And she just wasn't interested, I guess. And so like this was all happened for a whole week, and then a week later, she's like, hey, what happened again this week? You said something was going on? And I was like, don't even worry about it.
Can I ask a weird one? Which is like when you have the controversial elements, like I love the recommendations actually that are in my feed. They're all highly personalized according to what I have already. It's a great addition. I mostly follow new people because of the recommendations.
Yeah.
But it's controversial. When you have two opposing kind of, not teams, but ideologies almost internally, how do you resolve that?
I think the key thing is you make sure both sides are heard, and then you make it very clear who's the decision maker, and you make it very clear when there's a decision. And you have to remind people that it's important to disagree and commit, because if you're just going to question a decision upstream, downstream over and over again, you're just going to do everything poorly. That one is tough, though, because obviously people always... not always, but there's a bias a lot of us have to want things to return to the way they were, even though that's not possible.
Yeah. I totally agree with you. I always think about it with like the iPhone. Do you remember when they removed the home button? Yeah. And they did the swipe? I was like, this is shit. Yeah. Total crap. Now I'm like, what the fuck is this
why would I want a giant bezel
button at the bottom? But I mean, but these are hard product decisions in the moment. Yeah. When you think back over the time at Instagram, what's been the hardest product decision for you?
That one was really leaning into recommendations and feed. That was the hardest.
And why was that for you?
Because I just knew there was going to be so much backlash. It wasn't because I questioned if it was the right thing. It was so clearly the right thing to do. Basically, what people don't realize is they think of Instagram as a feed of square photos, sometimes in chronological order. And if you look at how people share, all of the growth has been in stories and in DMs over the last 5 years or so. And to the degree there is growth in feed, it's all in video. It's not in photos in a lot of ways, at least in terms of what people consume. And if you look at how teens spend their time on Instagram, they spend more time in DMs than they do in stories, and they spend more time in stories than they do in feed. Yet people think of Instagram as a feed, and it's the third most important surface at best, maybe fourth now, for teens, who are some of the most important communities on the platform. Plus, all the friend sharing is moving in that direction, but you don't share personal moments in feed today the way you did 5 or 10 years ago. You share them in stories or in messages more so. And so feed had to evolve. Otherwise, it would just slowly, die or decay, exactly. And so recommendations are a way to tap into this huge, rich repertoire of amazing content that exists on the platform that you might not even know about yet, and continue to make sure that feed is alive and well. And people, they say like, "Well, you don't show enough of my friends' posts." It's because your friends don't post that much to feed, but it's easier to think it's the algorithm.
Yeah.
So it was so clear the right thing to do, but it was so clear that everyone was going to get. It was so clear that it was going to become a scapegoat for anything you didn't like about Instagram. You would just blame the Recs. Recs is what we call recommendations for short internally.
What does that mean for you internally when you see that DMs and messages is number one? Do you then go, we should move up resources towards messaging? Do you then think we're a messaging application? Like, how does that change how you think with the recognition that DMs and messaging is one?
It definitely made me shift more resources towards messaging. Actually, at one point a couple of years ago, I think I put the entire stories team on messaging.
Wow. Why?
Because it was where, if you take out all the text, there are more photos and videos shared in DMs than there are shared in stories. And there's way more shared in stories than there is in feed. So just forget about the text for a second. Just the photos and videos, just the media, the rich media. It's a bigger deal and growing faster in DMs than anywhere else.
Wow.
But the thing is, we're not a messaging app. If I was going to run late to today's podcast, the best way to let you know would probably be to text you on WhatsApp.
Yeah.
It wouldn't be on Instagram. What Instagram DMs are great for is they provide you an excuse to start a conversation. We call them conversation starters a lot internally. You can, if you switch universities or you're going to uni for the first time, you switch high schools, you have a crush. Replying to someone's story is socially acceptable in a way that a cold text is not. Sending them a funny reel you found in feed, or more recently, notes. Notes are, basically AIM status, but better looking and at the top of the inbox. Anybody above 20 doesn't use them very much. Unbelievable how much they've moved Instagram engagement overall, app level engagement for teens.
Huh.
And they're just an excuse to start a conversation. Yes, what you're up to, but maybe it's a question, but they're just a reason to give someone a buzz.
How do you think, because I think that's a really fundamentally challenging product paradigm to navigate through though, which is a large portion of your audience doesn't want it, won't use it, but it will ignite a different segment. That's really challenging because you've got this broad swathe. Respectfully, and Jack at Snap's going to kill me for this. It's kind of easier for him because he's going to really kill me for this. It's mostly just teens.
Yeah.
It's an isolated demographic. For you, you need to incorporate it for everyone, knowing that only one segment will use it.
Yeah. So there's a couple ways to deal with it. The first, though, is you have to be okay. I think it's super valuable to be willing to prioritize certain segments over others. And for us, we care about young people. And we care about creators most, because young people, they grow up, but also they are where creators gravitate to over time, and they set trends. And they often serve as a bellwether. And creators, I just think, are becoming more and more important over time for a bunch of reasons we can go into. And so the first thing is to be willing to make that prioritization decision and be like, look, I'm going to eat some cost to overall app engagement or even overall revenue in the short term, because I think this is going to be better and healthier for the company in the long term, or for Instagram in this case in the long term, because either we'll break out of a local maximum or we'll be more defensible or whatever the argument might be. And then two, I think it's super important if you want to keep the experience simple, and I don't think we've done a good enough job at this, to embrace certain ideas like progressive disclosure. So an app should become more complicated as it needs to be and not be complicated if you don't. And so Notes is a nice example because if none of your friends posted a note, it's just the active now tray. It just shows you who's on right now. And you might not even know that notes are a thing. But if people start to share notes, then it starts to show you both notes and active now next to each other. That's relatively elegant because you can think of your note as a status and your active now as a status, and so it's sort of seamless. But then if you don't, it kind of elegantly turns into something simpler.
Is simple always better in design, Adam?
No, and I'm going to get crucified by a bunch of designers for saying so. I have a strong bias towards simplicity. I think Instagram has benefited greatly from being simple. It's one of the core values we have in our approach. This is go back to the Mike and Kevin days, and I believe in it. But I think to say it's always better is a mistake. I think of simplicity as a means to an end, and you have to be clear about what that end is. Maybe it's usability, maybe it's broad appeal, but I think that it's possible. There are instances where a more complicated thing is going to be a better means to that end.
There's one portion of Instagram where you need like 8 clicks back to get back to main feed. And I'm like, for fuck's sake, Adam. Like,
yeah, no, it's a thing.
Is that deliberate?
No. The app is too complicated. I mean, let's be serious. I think it's gotten more simple over the last 12 months or so. We consolidated some of the design patterns and primitives, removed some of the tabs, but we still have more to do. It's when you manage a large team and they get excited about a new idea, they often want to just build a new thing. And it's tougher and more work to extend an existing pattern or primitive for a new use case than to just invent your own new one, because you have to coordinate and you have to, maybe it's not quite as specialized for this thing that you guys are so excited about. But if you don't do that, you just slowly add more and more complexity to the app in a way that I think burns you over the long run, sort of death by a thousand cuts. So we actually have, like I was talking to our head of design and one of our product leads 2 days ago about how do we carve out a certain percentage of the team's time to just unship things that aren't used that much or don't create that much value and proactively look for opportunities to consolidate things to make them simpler and easier to use.
Okay, that's really unfair of me. What do you think you should unship that doesn't create that much value? And which area do you think you haven't tapped that you could or should?
I don't know if there's one that, one of the things that we did unship was the activity feed. So activity is like your notifications. And there was a place you could go to see essentially like all the things your friends had liked. And it was fun. Like it was a great way to discover new content, but it's a little bit creepy. Just to be like, I'm going to check out. It's like...
What's Adam like?
Yeah, it's always like, Adam's liking a lot of this thing right now. That seems a little weird.
Adam, I've told you about OnlyFans before.
Yeah, exactly. I got so much hate in my DMs about that. It was used...
What, OnlyFans?
No. The activity feed.
I'm right, sorry.
It was what? It was probably a small. It was less than 1% of the users who used it, but that's still,
and they DM
millions
you?
of people. Oh, you should see my DMs. Yeah.
Really?
A lot of DMs. Yeah.
I just get dick pics.
Oh, nice. I just get. It's my birthday. All I want for my birthday is a blue check mark. I get. You disabled my account unfairly. And I get a lot of just whatever the most recent changes, usually complaints about it. I like to go there once or twice a week. Yeah.
You do?
I like to go in once or twice a week and respond to a couple people.
They must be like incredibly impressed when you respond, no?
Yeah, sometimes they think it's not me. I get that a lot. Actually, I'm on Reddit, and I think my handle is just Adam Mosseri. And every once in a while, I'll just go in and like respond to Instagram things, and no one has ever believed it was me before. They're always like, "Look at this wanker pretending to be Adam," and they're just telling me to piss off, and I'm just like, "No, it's me.
That is me.
That's why we did this.
I promise it's me. It's a real-time picture of me.
Yeah, no, yeah, exactly. There's no
this
way
is
to
me
prove
working.
it. There's no proof. There's no way to prove it.